Okay, hi, how's everyone doing? I'm speaking to you here from Sao Paulo, and I think, you could argue, I just saw James Williamson mention something about China being a police state. Last year, the police in Rio de Janeiro state killed 1,800 people, mostly unarmed, summer executions, a lot of gunshots to the back of the head. So the idea that one side of the world is police state and the other isn't, is maybe up to argument or analysis or whatever. I only have 5 minutes to speak, so I'm just going to be as quick and objective as possible. Pepe Escobar's written a lot about this, but basically what we have geopolitically going on in Brazil right now is it's become a kind of battlefield in the full spectrum war between the United States and China. We had a coup d'etat in 2016 in which the legitimate democratically elected President Dilma Rousseff was removed for ostensibly committing a budgetary infraction that was not an impeachable offense, that involved no embezzlement of funds or anything, that was legalized the day after she was removed from office. And since then, the rule of law has deteriorated in Brazil. And we had a situation in 2018 where former President Lula, who was leading all polls with double the support of his closest rival, was arrested and removed from the presidential race in a lawfare operation, which now The Intercept has revealed through leaked social media chat conversations between prosecutors and the judge who presided over the case, was based on completely fabricated charges. An hour before they went into the final day of judgment in the courtroom, the prosecutors were joking about how they knew they had no evidence against Lula. And we also know from these leaked conversations, also from public record, that the United States Department of Justice was involved the entire time. So the result of this is we have a Jair Bolsonaro, neo-fascist, operating like a puppet ruler from the United States. So that his reaction to the coronavirus crisis is copying 100% of what Donald Trump does and says. So as Donald Trump has addressed the American people talking about how coronavirus is nothing but a little flu, how we can't destroy the economy for the sake of people's lives and things like that, Bolsonaro, almost as if he were scripted, repeats the same comments to the Brazilian people. And like in the United States, where you have a kind of federation system where individual states have a lot of autonomy in how they can react on health issues, in Brazil, we have a lot of pushback from the governors against Bolsonaro. And even from people in his own government, like his health minister, who he just fired the day before yesterday, repeatedly contradicting what Bolsonaro says to the Brazilian public. Bolsonaro is repeatedly, almost every night now, coming on the air and saying that people should ignore the state government and the municipal government's quarantine orders. And this has weakened the response in different states, the attempts at self-isolation. Right now, nationwide, we have a rate of about 50% of the population that are respecting local isolation orders. And that includes 3 states now which don't have any kind of isolation or lockdown in place, which are run by governors who are ideologically aligned with Jair Bolsonaro. So we have a situation now in which I think it would be really hard. I don't think it would be very, accurate or maybe intellectually honest to treat Brazil as an entire country. I think you have to look state by state because every state is responding in a different way. We have a huge variation from Santa Catarina, which has lifted the quarantine orders and has important cities who are ignoring the governor and maintaining lockdown orders like Florianopolis, to states like Rondônia, which just doesn't have any lockdown in place, to states like Maranhão, which has a communist governor who has set up the first free testing station in the nation when they only had 2 cases in the state. They've set up temperature taking checkpoints at all entries and exits on all the roads coming in and out of the state and the airports. And a couple days ago, he worked around the Brazilian federal government and the US government and snuck 146 ventilators from China and 30,000 masks from China into the state through Ethiopia, because the US is engaged in so much piracy right now basically seizing and stealing any shipment of ventilators they can find moving around in Latin America. But he had to do this secretly through a shipment through Ethiopia. So what we have is a situation with huge variances state per state. I live in Sao Paulo, where we have a right-wing governor who has, to his credit, fought back every step of the way against Bolsonaro. So we have a lockdown in place, and they've built in the city of Sao Paulo state has about the same population as Hubei province. 1 minute, okay. Yeah. So I just want to end by saying that despite the poor leadership at the national level, what's not being spread in the media, in the Anglo media much, is that Brazil actually has a functioning public health system with universal access, and it has a scientific research and public health network of institutes connected to Fiocruz, which was just designated by the World Health Organization as one of the reference centers for fighting coronavirus, which produces its own medications and vaccines, and it's the only one in the Americas besides the CDC. So what we have is a mixed situation with varying results at the state level. I guess I'll just end it at that.